Hey. Alright, so girls, this is our last exercise for the topic, okay? And today what we're doing is we're solving equations and inequalities graphically. So last lesson we learned to graph equations using transformations. So what we're doing today is we're going to be given the graph and then we have to solve equations by using the given graph, okay? So I've written some notes here. All right, to solve graphically, draw a horizontal line of the number given. So let's have a look at example 19 to start off with. So example 19, here's the graph of 2 bracket x minus 1 cubed minus 5. So what they want you to do is solve, which means what's the x value when that is equal to 0. So without using algebra to solve this, if they say solve graphically, step number 1 means to draw a horizontal line. And what that means is you always look at the number on the other side by itself. That means you have to draw y equals to 0 on the graph. So as you know, y equals to 0 is just this line, which is basically the x-axis. And then step number 2, observe where it hits the graph. And as you can see, this is where it intersects with the graph. And that's what you read. What's the x value of that point? Well, you make an estimate. In my graph, it looks like it's 2.5. So that would basically be your answer to that question. Okay? Similarly, for the second part, if it says solve that is equal to 10, so that means I'm going to draw y equals to 10 line on the graph. So y equals to 10 is here. So I'm going to draw a straight horizontal line. Okay, that's where it hits the graph. And then go down to read what the value is. From my graph, it looks like 2.8 or something. So that's your answer. Okay, so obviously you're not all going to be getting the same answer. It's an estimate, so that's fine. There is no one exact correct answer, or you don't have to get that answer as long as you show that you've made the best estimate as possible. So with these questions, usually in the exam, they give you the graph instead of you having to draw it. So yeah, so don't be too worried about getting the right answer or wrong. Now, with inequality though, so if they want you to solve where the graph is greater than 10, so the first step is to still draw that line. So I've drawn that line, y equals to 10 line. Now, if it says the graph or the equation is greater than 10, that means you're looking at this part of the graph where it's above the 10. So that's what that means inequality wise. So looking at the part that's above the 10, okay, what do you notice with the x values as I keep going up and up and up? Can you see from 2.8, which is what the x value we said it was, can you see from 2.8 as we go and on and on and on, the x values increase because we're going to have 2.8 and then we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and onwards. So as your answer, we say the answer to that is x is greater than 2.8. Okay? So that's the difference between the previous question where it says equal to 10, our answer was x equals to 2.8. Whereas with this one, if it's greater than 10, the x values become greater than 2.8. As you can see graphically, as we go up, the x values go up. As a reverse, let's have a look at this question. So same question, but this time it says, these are 2 extra questions from me, by the way. It says less than 10. So if it says less than 10, that means from the 10 line, you're looking at the graph below y equals to 10. So this part. So once again, we know from 2.8, this time, what happens to all the x values as we go this way? Okay, what happens to all the x values as we keep going on and on this way? So that means we're going from 2.8 and we're decreasing in value because it's like 2.8, 2, 1, minus 1 and so on. So as we can see, the x values are decreasing when we look at the graph below 10. So we say the answer is x is less than 2.8. Okay, so that's your answer. So that's what that note means. If you have an equation and let's say it's greater than 5, you look at the part of the graph above y equals to 5 and then you read the x values, just like what I'm showing you here. Example 20, it says use the graph to find the solution 27e to the power of minus 0.25t equals to 10. So once again, you just have to draw a horizontal line at 10 and then read downwards and see what the t value is. I won't do that because I've already shown you how to do it. I just wanted to explain question 20c, solve it algebraically, because it's just been a while we've learned how to solve exponential equations. Okay, so in order to do that, the first thing is there is a number in front. Let's just divide it under. And then from here, do you guys remember what the step is? In order to get rid of e, the power comes down, but then you dig the e under. So we've got this is equal to log e that. So I just wanted to remind you guys how to do that technique. So to find t, it would just be that over minus 0.25, okay? And that will be your answer. So that's 3.97. Now also remember with this question, you also got to be able to know how to solve it algebraically. I'll just pop up the answers here. That's something you should be able to do, okay? Okay, example 21. The graph of the function d equals to minus half, bracket 2t plus 1 plus 7, where d is the distance of a marble at t seconds as it rolls down a barrier. Okay, solve graphically and explain the solutions. So it says graphically solve that. Once again, that just means we have to draw a horizontal line at 4. That's where it hits the graph. And if you go down, looks like 3 to me. Once again, it's an estimate, so it's fine. Let's have a look at that question. So if we're solving that is greater than or equal to 4, so that remember that means we're looking at, from 4, we're looking at the graph above 4 because this is greater than 4. So let's read the value. So if it's above it, we know from 3, okay, what's the t value between here and here? Well, we know it's 3 here, but what's the t value there? As we can see, it's 0. So in this case, the answer is the time is in between 3 and 0, okay? Including 0 and 3, that's what these equal sign mean because the question comes with equal sign. So that's how you get that answer. Now, with this one, if it says the graph is less than 4, that means we're looking at below 4. So we're looking at that part of the graph. So that's an additional question for me. So we're looking at this part of the graph. So let's have a look at the t values from there. So we've got 3 and what's that t value at the end right here? Let's say it's 6.5. So that's what you would write. So in that case, t is in between 3 and 6.5. So that's how you would interpret the question. Okay, let's have a look at example 21 now. It says to sketch that and then solve this. Now, when it comes to sketching the graph with parabolas, don't use horizontal and transformation method. Just graph it out as you normally would. So here are the information. Let's find the vertex, okay? Because it is convenient to find the vertex if it's in that form, because if you remember, the vertex is really just the opposite of what's inside the bracket to begin with, which is minus 3, and just the number outside, minus 5. Alright? Let's find the y-intercept by substituting x equals to 0 here. So if that's 0, I'm going to get, okay, x-intercept, let's substitute y equals to 0. So 0 is equal to 2 bracket x plus 3 squared minus 5. And let's solve for x. Let's bring that to the other side. So I get 5 equals to 2. So that's squared, so square root it, plus or minus. So x is equal to, now as decimal points, 4.6. So let's label all these facts. Okay. Not my best attempt, but you get the idea. So from here, let's solve it. So the parabola is equal to 3. Let's draw y equals to 3. So y equals to 3 is here. So these are the 2 points that it intersects. So what value do we see if we go down? Okay, we've got -1 and we've got -5. So that would be our answer. So x is equal to -5 and -1. Now here are 2 additional questions from me. So now let's have a look at the part of the graph where it's less than 3. If it's less than 3, that means you're looking at the graph where it's below 3. So below 3 part of the graph is here, over here. So in other words, what are all the x values in that part of the graph? So as you can see, from -5, it's all the x values up until 1. Can we see that? So it's all the x values basically between -1 and -5 because that's where it's bounded by. So that's what you write, -5 and -1. How about if the graph or the parabola is greater than 3? That means you're looking at this part of the graph because that part of the graph is above y equals to 3. So let's have a look at what happens to the x values. Let's start with this side. As we go up and up and up, what happens to all the x values starting from -1? -1, then it goes. What are all the x values here? It's like -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So as we can see in this part of the graph, the x values increase from -1. So we write x is greater than -1 for this part of the graph. How about this part of the graph? What happens to all the x values starting from -5? As we go and go on, as we can see, all the x values decrease on that side. So we say x is less than -5. So with this question, there are 2 answers that you must write. Okay? So these are the 2 answers you must write if it's greater than 3. Whereas when it was below 3 or less than 3, we had an answer where it was between -5 and -1, as we can see. So this is how you read it, okay? And this is something that you've got to be able to do. Okay, just quickly in question 1, it says for each function, state how many solutions there are for the equation f of x equals to 0. So remember, that means you have to draw y equals to 0 line because it's a 0. And how many solutions are there means how many intersections are there between the graph and the line. As we can see, there are 2 intersections. So question 1 is just really asking how many points of intersections are there, which in this case is 2 solutions. Right, that's all it is for question 1 as a guide. Oh, and just a little tip for question 9. It basically says to draw 10 log x over 2 equals to 5, because in the question it says I equals to 2. With this question, girls, I definitely would recommend you girls to use table of values to accurately estimate the value of x when you intersect it with y equals to 5. Okay, so that's all I wanted to point out. Okay, girls, that should be enough to get you through most of the exercise, if not all. Give it a go and let me know if you have any questions.